Welcome to Caregiver SOS On Air, presented by the WellMed Charitable Foundation, with nationally known gerontologist Carol Zernial and award-winning veteran broadcaster Ron Aaron. This program provides health, wellness, and other information for caregivers who are vital to the health and well-being of so many people across our country. And now, here are your hosts, Ron Aaron and Carol Zernial.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the award-winning Caregiver SOS On Air. I'm Ron Aaron. Our co-host, Carol Zernial, is with us. Carol holds a master's degree in social gerontology, some 30-plus years experience in the field. She's the co-chair of the Raise Family Caregiving Advisory Council and executive director of the WellMed Charitable Foundation. And we're looking at a very important topic. If your loved one is showing signs of mental illness, what do? How do you identify what it is? Who do you ask for help from? And a whole lot more. And Carol, there are a lot of loved ones who deal with that issue.
Well, issues around mental health are probably some of the hardest, and they're also the least talked about still. And so we're really fortunate to have Maria and Olga joining us today from NAMI.
Well, let me introduce them. Olga Rodriguez is Director of Education for NAMI Greater San Antonio. She's a passionate mental health advocate and the Director of Education at NAMI, where she has been serving since 2023. She leads with her heart for service and a deep belief and commitment to the power of lived experience. And we're delighted to welcome Maria Honigman. She's Director of Programs at NAMI Greater San Antonio. She is a dedicated mental health advocate and a supporter committed to empowering individuals and families on their mental health journey. And she serves as the Director of Programs for NAMI Greater San Antonio. And we're delighted to have both Olga and Maria join us. And Maria, let me start with you. This is not an unusual topic. People who call and say, I'm seeing issues with my loved one.
No, it's not. And especially working for an organization like NAMI, we're nationwide. People see us as the experts. And what makes us the experts is that we have that lived experience. A lot of us that work here, a lot of us that we could relate to people. And people know that we'll have answers that we either have lived it or we know somebody that's lived it. And we offer that support. But we get a lot of calls. About 60% of our calls are family members that are calling for their loved ones.
And Olga, when folks call in, what kind of behaviors are they describing?
Absolutely. Well, they are starting to see maybe withdrawal, also sudden mood changes, increased anxiety or sadness within them. Also, there can be also changes in their sleep or appetite if they start seeing that as well, and maybe feeling a little hopelessness within themselves.
And one of the challenges, of course, is there is a real lack of access to mental health care.
Correct. Yeah, and so especially within a lot of our underserved communities, Hispanic, Latino, or even our African American communities, a lot of them experience those disparities. But again, we're here to help support them and provide some of those resources that are available. And of course, with NAMI, we have our programs that we are able to offer to the families.
And what are some of those programs?
Sure. Let me share with you the programs that we have are our educational programs that are free. We have our family-to-family education class. That's for family members that have a loved one they don't have to have a diagnosis, a professional diagnosis, but if they start seeing those signs, they're able to take this class. We also have our basics class, and those are for parents that have a child under the age of 17 years old, and they're wanting to learn more on how to advocate for their child. Sometimes you have the teachers or people in the school system, sometimes they'll mention to the parents and say, when my child has all these behavioral problems, but through the classes, they're able to learn and how to advocate for their child as well. Self-care is a big thing within all our classes with family to family, basics. We have another class which is for the peers, the person that has their individual mental health condition. That one is geared for the individual that wants to learn on how to um, find that self-care and to find a place where they can be better for themselves. And then we also have Homefront. Homefront is for the family member that has a loved one that is in the military or is serving right now, that is a veteran or is serving at the present time. So these tools will be given to the parents or to the families actually that have a loved one on how to better have empathy, because sometimes as ourselves, we can be those triggers. We can be the trigger for that family member or for that child. So we learn on how to better communicate with them. Also self-care, how to find the resources that we need as well.
Hold that thought. We're going to come right back to you. I'm Ron Aaron. You're listening to Caregiver SOS On Air, our podcast available wherever you get your podcast. Carol Zernial, our co-host, is here, and we're talking with Olga Rodriguez and Maria Honigman, and both are with NAMI Greater San Antonio, but the services they provide are available through NAMI nationwide. You're listening to Caregiver SOS On Air. Delighted to have you with us. And Maria, I'm just curious, what attracted you to this field?
One of the things I always liked helping people. When I was young, people would sit right next to me, and I guess because I was very quiet, people would tell me their problems and tell me their stories. So I love sociology. I love learning about what systems and communities. And then I decided to do grad school, and all my friends were doing it, that peer pressure. And I was like, I guess I'll do grad school. And I did marriage and family therapy. And with that, I still loved helping people. I love connecting people. And as I worked as a caseworker in the schools, I realized there was a gap. There was a gap where people were lacking education. Even me growing up, my parents wouldn't talk about mental health. And it's not because they were negligent or they just weren't talked to either about it. So I felt like if I was able to be in an organization where I could offer that education to families, to individuals, to students, I could kind of bridge that gap from me just being that trusted adult to a student, but to actually educate the parents and know how to receive them at home, how to support them, and how to just that I feel like there's power in education and power and empowering individuals.
And Olga, in your case, I know your husband is a pastor, and you help with delivering services to his faith community. What brought you into this field?
Wow. Yeah, serving in the community for 38 years. We have ministered to many families, and we're usually our congregations have always been in the underserved community. So I've seen firsthand how the pastor or the priest or the rabbi are usually the first people that people in the community will go to. So, and again, seeing that there was such a great need within those communities that we've been serving at, really gave me that, it propelled me to say, you know what, I really need to be part of NAMI Greater San Antonio. So, and even more with the education piece that we have here, sharing that information that they need to know. Again, it's just empowering and giving them the tools that they need.
There's so many folks who feel helpless in dealing with mental health issues. Carol, you had a comment.
I'm curious, you both mentioned the word self-care. And so what's that first advice that you give a family member who's ready to talk to you, who's ready to address, a problem that maybe the family's been kind of quiet about in the past?
One of the things we always say, like we just came from a conference and we were on a plane, and these important words that they tell us: put your mask first before you put your child's mask. And that's the hardest thing to do as a parent. So as family members, we want to be able to help our loved ones. So we always tell the family members, first, learn how to take care of yourself. If you don't take care of yourself, if you don't learn and how to communicate with your loved ones, then they're never going to want to receive the help either. So first, do that. Olga?
I agree with you, absolutely. But also educating yourself, I think it's so important. And not think that it's selfish to back away for a little bit and then come back and help. Because sometimes I think a lot of our caregivers, the people that are there for their loved one, feel guilty. So they are like, well, I need to be there at all times, but it's okay. It's okay to back off for a little bit and then come back once you're able to. If you need to go do some gardening, you want to go. I know I've heard this where I haven't done it, but I've heard that taking off those shoes and going into the grass and just running around or stepping on the soil, it just grounds you. But doing something fun, even going to the movies. But yes, do a little bit of self-care and then coming back to your loved one and not feeling like you're letting down your loved one that has that mental health condition.
Great. That's great advice. Both of those are great advice. I'm curious, do you see a difference from a parent taking care of a child versus maybe a child taking care of their parent who has mental health issues? And I'm talking about an adult child.
Maria?
I think both situations are very difficult. We call it the sandwich generation, where a lot of times it's an adult taking care of the child, but also taking care of the parent, and also educating their parent and making them comfortable and safe. So where you have to play that parental role in both sides. So I think it's very important. We do see the difference, but the stresses are there the same way, where you have to make sure you help them navigate resources, where you have to make sure that they go to appointment. But the harder part is when it's a child taking care of a parent, it's that the parents are sometimes resistant, but also an adult. When it's an adult with an adult, so like sometimes the family member, the parent is like, I'm the parent, why are you taking care of me? So it involves a very special type of communication. So when people take family to family, correct me if I'm wrong, Olga, they're put in categories of, okay, if you're an adult child taking care of a parent, you're in this category. If you have a loved one that's like a relative, a friend, you're put in this one. So they're put in groups so they could kind of support each other and help each other as well.
Those are good points. We're going to come back to both of you in just a moment. I'm Ron Aaron. You're listening to the award-winning Caregiver SOS On Air. Our co-host, Carol Zernial, is with us, and we're talking with two people who work daily with issues of mental health and mental health access, talking with Olga Rodriguez and Maria Honigman. Both are with NAMI Greater San Antonio. And if you Google NAMI, N-A-M-I, wherever you live in the U.S., you will find a NAMI office near you. Thank you for being with us right here on Caregiver SOS On Air.
Well, thank you so much for listening to Caregiver SOS On Air. We're delighted to have you with us. We come to you every week with a discussion of an issue, a problem, some accomplishments involved in caregiving with more than 60 million caregivers across this country, but most thinking they are the Lone Rangers. We try to bring you the latest information and help that can make that job easier and more manageable. Caregiver SOS On Air takes a look at trends across this country. We provide tips on how to be a better caregiver and, most importantly, where you can go for help. On Caregiver SOS On Air, we try to give you what you need to make that caregiving manageable and to provide you with the help that can make your life easier. I'm Ron Aaron. Carol Zernial and I are delighted to co-host this program, and we're thrilled you've joined us on the award-winning Caregiver SOS On Air podcasts available everywhere, brought to you by WellMed Charitable Foundation.
Hello, friend. Hello, friend. Really good to see you once again. Hello, friend. Hello, friend. Really good to see you once again.
We are so pleased you're sticking with us right here on the award-winning Caregiver SOS On Air. Our podcast available wherever you listen to your podcast. We also are on the radio in several cities in Texas and Florida as well. Our special guests today, Maria Honigman and Olga Rodriguez, are with NAMI Greater San Antonio. Carol Zernial, our co-host, is here as well. I'm Ron Aaron. And Maria, I want to come back to you because for folks who are, and you mentioned the sandwich generation, maybe you're caring for your kids and you're caring for your parents and your grandparents. There are sociological differences among ethnic groups who are more welcoming and less welcoming to mental health services. How do you deal with the family where they say, no, we don't need that?
That's a great question. So we meet people where they're at. So when it's a family member that says, no, we don't need that, we try to navigate it to the actual person that needs it because a lot of times it's one or the other. And that's why, like, the great part about NAMI is that if we separate family members get their own support groups, family members get their own classes, and individuals get going through something, through a mental health condition, they get their own classes and support groups. So we meet people where they're at. So the family member, like, we have a coworker that says, I don't know who came first, my family or me. So I don't know who started with services first, because they both did. And I know, like, people sometimes, they have to be okay with themselves. They have to get empowered, and then they could go back to their family and communicate. And sometimes it's the family member that starts. So you kind of see who's ready and who's not. So whoever's ready gets the training and the education and the learning and the support groups.
It's the old, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious, do you have training around identifying points where they really need an intervention? Because sometimes things can spiral out of control, or people get off their medications. Do you help families become aware of situations where they may really need to call in professional help?
Yes, well, definitely by attending the classes, by being part of the classes, especially family to family. I mean, we talk about it in there. When to start looking for that help, that extra help that they need. Again, it's so important that they have those resources. A lot of times they feel like they're so alone. What we've come to find out, I took family to family, not because I was a director of education, but because I have a loved one that has a mental health condition. So I attended as a participant, and I really was able to obtain such great information and the tools that I was needing to be able to help my family member. So again, by attending the classes, you're able to learn, you're able to get all the information that you're needing, the extra help to help your loved one with those extra things that you need.
Well, if you let me get personal, Olga, what are the issues that your loved one is facing?
It was with bipolar. Again, it gave me the tools that, instead of me reacting and saying, why aren't you doing these things? I had to have that empathy and say, you know what, let me back off. Let me give him a moment and let him do what he needs to do. Not approach him in a be confrontational with him and say, why aren't you doing this and why aren't you doing that? You know what? Just leave him alone and back off. Because I think that was my first reaction that I wanted to do, is confront the person because they weren't doing what they were supposed to be doing.
You want to fix it.
Yeah. Yeah, we want to fix the problem. And that's something that we have to learn, is that we can't fix things. We can't fix them. And if they're not ready, like Maria was saying, sometimes our loved ones are not ready. But you know what? We can work on ourselves. We can work on me, on how I'm going to react to my family member. And you know what? It really did. It really helped me so much. And I was able to see from the start to the end how we were able to become a big family. And we got to hear each other's stories. The beautiful thing that I was able to observe as well was that people felt and said, I just don't feel alone any longer. I feel like I'm not alone in this journey. I thought I was all by myself having to deal with this. Now I don't feel like that.
Now, as the wife of a pastor, you probably get a lot of congregants who open up their hearts to you.
Mm-hmm. They do, and they do share, and especially within the faith community, that's there's still stigma in that, and we're trying to break that stigma within the faith community. Again,
About getting mental
sometimes
health services.
exactly, and even more in the Hispanic culture and the Latino culture. There's a saying within our Hispanic culture that says, "La ropa sucia se lava en casa." You don't want to air out your dirty laundry for others to hear. So keep it within the home, but more in the faith community, because many times, our pastors or rabbis or priests are not educated that it's okay. It's okay to bring our faith and to bring help for mental health together. It's okay. But a lot of times it's seen as weakness, or you don't have enough faith. You don't have, you're not close to God, or it's because of your sins that you're having to go through this. But again, going through the classes and being part of NAMI was able to give me the education that I needed to be able to now help our community in a good way that, you know what, bringing our faith, being strong in our faith and bringing mental health together, it's all right.
Now, NAMI runs an annual program trying to reach out to and educate faith leaders.
Mm-hmm. And that's Pathways to Hope that we have in August. And that's a great conference that we have every year. And we've seen many, many, many people that come to that conference. Again, I encourage anybody, our listeners, to be part of that, that wonderful conference that we have in August. But yeah, definitely we bring different, all faiths coming together there at the Tobin Center.
Rabbi Nathan has been to that conference, and she found it very useful.
Wonderful. That's good to hear.
Stream, is it not?
I'm not sure if they're going to do any live streaming this time, but I don't know the details on that.
Carol?
We once wrote a grant application talking about addressing depression as a mental health issue. And sort of the feedback that we got was, well, everyone has depression. And so I'm curious how NAMI understands and relates to depression in individuals. And is it normal? Does everybody just have depression?
That's a great question, because I think one of the things that we try to limit in NAMI is barriers. So we don't actually require anybody to have a diagnosis from their doctor or from their psychiatrist or psychologist. So if somebody says, I feel depressed. So there's a difference between feeling depressed and having depression. So if somebody says, I feel depressed, they're able to come to our classes. They're able to come to our support groups. We receive them, and they're able to get the help they need for as long as they're able to get it free. So I think there is a lot of people that are more vocal about what they're feeling or what they're experiencing. So I do think that there's people that experience depression and experience feeling depressed, but then the people that are diagnosed with depression. So there's just, they're all valid. If it answers your question.
So they're all valid, and where one may be episodic, something has caused you to feel depressed. The other may be a chemical imbalance or something like that, where you really need to get some treatment.
Like people going through perimenopause, menopause, like a loss, grief. And I think it becomes a problem or it becomes an issue when you're not going through anything. You kind of have to pause and assess what you're going through, because if you just lost somebody, it's normal to feel depressed. If you just experience something huge, it's normal. But when you're not experiencing anything and you have depressive syndrome, that where you're still able to go to work, but you're nothing feels complete, then we recommend you go to your doctor and get evaluated and get some help. But I think a lot of it comes from the Surgeon General did this report on, I think it was 2023, where there was already a lot of like loneliness, even before COVID. There was a huge increase in loneliness, and people were already feeling that way. And then COVID happened, and it made it worse. Isolation, people were feeling isolated, people were not connected, and it could be because of social media. So a lot of things stems from that. Like people, this generation went to school during COVID. They were isolated. They had to do through Zoom. So just connecting again to people. And that's what I got from church, because at church they were telling us we need to reconnect with people face to face.
So Carol, that's one of the advantages of the senior centers that WellMed sponsors.
Communities, every community, if you're listening to this, a little bit of exercise, a little bit of social connection, whether you're involved with someone who has a mental illness or not, will certainly make you feel better. And that's a great way to take care of yourself.
Well, I want to thank both of you for coming on. We are flat out of time. A special thank you to Olga Rodriguez and Maria. We have Honigman. I've got it. I'm working at it. So thank you both for joining us. I'm Ron Aaron. We'll do it again on the next Caregiver SOS On Air. And Carol Zernial, we appreciate you being here as well. And if you want to listen to our podcast, just go to wherever you get your podcast, and you can find Caregiver SOS On Air. Have a great day, everybody.
The executive producer for Caregiver SOS On Air is Daniel Calderon. The producer is Sharice Pendleton. And the associate producer is Catherine Oglesby. We'll see you next week on Caregiver SOS On Air.
You've been listening to Caregiver SOS On Air, an exclusive presentation of the WellMed Charitable Foundation. We welcome emails with suggestions and comments on this program at radio@wellmed.net. Join co-hosts Carol Zernial and Ron Aaron next week for more on caregiving, improving the health and well-being of caregivers and their care recipients everywhere. For more on caregiving and podcasts of our programs, visit caregiversos.org.